Welcome back to the Cutty and Govy show. Govy, we're on episode, I think, 69 or 70. We're flying through it. This week was a crazy week. The big story of the week is the new CEO of Starbucks is getting rid of all the promotions. You won't be able to go there for your birthday, get the free birthday coffee. You won't get the free drink every 10 drinks. It's all over at Starbucks. It's going retail, and it's expensive. It's like $6 for a cup of coffee in the morning. But anyway, let's talk about, we have so much to talk about. Israel and Brett Baer interview last night and your haircut and your beard trim. You look
I just
so
want you to know,
good.
I went to Starbucks twice. Drive-through in my life. Twice. And it was with you 2 weeks in a row. And after we sat there for like 30 seconds, you say, I can't wait here any longer. So I have yet to actually see a transaction take place. I just know that the line is long. And if he got rid of all these promotions, maybe the line will be shorter. So I'm happy that he did this.
It's just so expensive. I don't know how they're going to get rid of the promotions. And it takes so long. That's one of the
line
problems.
will be shorter because the promotions are gone.
Well, now the guy went over to Chipotle Mexican. The guy from Chipotle Mexican Grill went to Starbucks. So he's the one that's chopping.
Well, he turned around Chipotle.
Yeah, he turned it around after they had that food thing. What was that called? Wherever the food.
The same thing that's going on with Boar's Head.
Yeah, Boar's Head. Boy, I saw that. I mean, I read, it's like psychosomatic. Like the day after I read that, I had eaten a hoagie the day before, and I was like, oh, my stomach. I probably wouldn't even.
Well, you go into Publix, and that you could either get some other brand or Boar's Head. It's like, why are you even buying Boar's Head right now?
Right. So, Govy, what do you think of this P. Diddy thing? I mean, he had his third hearing now. He had his third bail hearing. I don't know how, this guy's ever going to get out of jail. But I'm of the belief he's innocent until proven guilty. I can't even get it out.
I'll tell you what P. Diddy's like. Do you ever see?
I can't even take the other. I was really trying hard to take the other side of this guy and fight with you, but I just can't even fake it.
Well, I'm going to tell you what P. Diddy's like. Do you ever see when they show you what the deficit looks like, and it's that thing, and it's just clicking the miles?
The billboard on I-95.
Yeah, and it just shows you how fast we're spending money. That is the same thing with P. Diddy. It shows you how many people are coming out each week, and it just keeps clicking. So P. Diddy must be up to 100 people against him. Every day you're seeing new people coming out, because why not just jump on the bandwagon? He can't. All you know is if you were there, you could say it happened to you.
Well, I read about the third court hearing. Evidently, he came in the court, and he was an asshole and all hot and bothered, and the judge had to reprimand him. Can you imagine being 3 weeks in MDC in Brooklyn in like the worst jail in the country? And he comes into the court in front of his newest judge, and he acted like a prima donna, celebrity, and all this stuff, and the judge had to reprimand him. I mean, I just can't, what is this guy, crazy?
When does the reality hit?
I don't understand when the reality hits.
I'll tell you when it hits.
When somebody's stabbing him with a shank?
When you go to the bathroom in the middle of the cell. That's when it hits the reality that you're just there in the middle of the cell with your cellmate sitting there. That's when it hits you.
It's just unbelievable. And, we spoke about all the names, and every week, we follow Instagram. I follow Instagram now. This week, folks, we had our Reels had 400,000 views.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy on our 6 or 9 Reels. We have 400,000 views. And so I watch all this stuff on P. Diddy, and every week it's a new list of people that are getting caught up in this thing. It's Ashton Kutcher, it's J-Lo.
Yeah, but where it's going to get exciting is you're just hearing names now. You need them to start talking. When that first hits out and someone says, I'm going to now speak. Like if Ashton Kutcher decided to say, all right, I made a deal. Here's what took place. Here's what happened when I was there. Or if Justin Bieber says, they kind of told me if I want to be successful, this is what I had to do. And maybe something. I mean, right now they're just like wetting your beak a little bit. But eventually you're going to start finding out the details from the actual victims.
Right. This will be exciting. It's like the selection, Govy. You just don't know who's going to win, or the
Mike
Tyson fight.
How about the politicians that are involved?
Yeah, well, who's going to be involved? There's a lot of pictures of him and Barack Obama. Do you think he's involved? They say Barack Obama's gay. No. That's what they said.
The question is, I'm going to ask you this.
Maybe Barack Obama's chef's involved.
By the way,
before he disappeared.
Don't forget the chef that was swimming laps back and forth.
Right, he disappeared.
And he dives in like 3 feet of water. But I mean, that's another one that he's with Epstein right now. But I think Barack Obama. The question is, was he ever at a party? Do you think he was ever at a party?
It's just hard to imagine that with the Secret Service entourage that he walks around with after presidency.
Then he wasn't. I say he wasn't.
There's no way. They would never let him in there. First of all, if he went into one of the freakout rooms, I mean, the Secret Service has to be in there too.
Right.
I don't think he was.
Either do I.
I mean, I want to see if Oprah's there. I mean, I wonder, Ellen DeGeneres, I want to see if
she was there.
She was there because she was...
with Portia.
Right. She was best pals with him. All right, Govy, last night we had the Brett Baer interview with Kamala Harris, and I watched it, and I know your thoughts on it. I'm going to take the other side. And my other side is, Brett, I want your job. I could have done a better job than you. I think he was a terrible moderator. I think that he lost complete control. I wanted to hear what she wanted to say, but she just filibustered. Instead of him defining what...
He couldn't stop that. He couldn't stop that. So, first of all, I just want to... I'll let you go finish your side, since you're taking the other side.
I mean, this is how I would have stopped it. Okay. I would have said, Madam Vice President, we have 21 and a half minutes. You cannot filibuster. You have to speak to the points, answer the questions so we can get through it, or you give me more time. That's the bottom line.
Well, to start off with, what most people don't realize is it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. And all of a sudden, Kamala Harris's team wanted it to be cut short 10 minutes. So it should be a 20-minute interview rather than a half hour. Brett Baer didn't want to agree with that, or Fox, so Kamala Harris showed up 15 minutes late. So she took her...
But she is the Vice President of the United States. She's allowed to be late, isn't she?
Well, she had nothing else that day. So she wasn't in 3 other states. This was her only thing was to be here on time.
All right, well, let's not talk about your current wife. Let's talk about your ex-wife. She had the whole day to get ready for dinner, and then you're 15 minutes late. Explain it.
Right, exactly. That happens. And I don't understand it. That's how you end up in fights. But
well, that's how you make jewelry.
That's how you make sales, too. But anyway, so here's my take on Brett Baer. It was on Fox News. 95% of everybody who watched this interview last night has been on Fox before. They know who Brett Baer is. Brett Baer is the nicest guy on all of Fox. He's the guy that tries to give you fair and balance. So he's the Mr. Softy on the network, and that you can come to. When he was bullied by the first question by a filibuster, it's like if I said to you, David, how do you think, Cutty, how do you think the New York Yankees did tonight? And if your answer to me is,
the left field wall is so far away, and when I'm sitting at home plate and I see...
No, that wouldn't even be her answer. Her answer would be... I think Donald Trump for years ago was like she had her agenda. Whatever he asked her, she was going to take it to answer her question that Donald Trump is bad. You know, all of a sudden they said, well, you've been in control for 3.5 years. She's like, well, Donald Trump's been around for a decade.
Let me ask you this question. This is where I'm befuddled by this whole situation. It's just like a coach of a football team watches films of the other team for a week. Didn't Brett Baer, strategized with his team that she was going to do this? This is what she's been doing for the last 60 days of filibustering.
You can't stop unless you're very rude back. And she came across. Everybody that knows Brett Baer that watches this, like I told you, 95% of that audience last night thought that she was rude to a Fox guy. Now I'll give you an example. Let's say 2 heavyweights are in a boxing round together. It's 2 opponents and a referee. And the referee, you could say anything about. He was not fair. He took points away. A debate even. You have a moderator who is judging 2 people. This isn't a debate. This isn't a boxing match. This is an interview. So Brett Baer isn't the referee. Brett Baer isn't someone that's like calling balls and strikes. All he's doing is asking questions. Why are you attacking him like he did something wrong?
Yeah, I agree with you, Govy, but I own Fox News. I don't want the interview. I mean, it just comes off so bad. It looks so bad. It comes off bad.
But she attacked him like he was the referee. He's just asking a question. He didn't come back. By the way, he could have started off really tough. How about this question? There's 320,000 kids that are missing. Where are they? He didn't ask that question.
Right.
He didn't give those type of facts. He basically said, okay.
Her answer would have been Donald Trump created this problem.
Right. That's what she would have
You
said.
ask him where the 320,000 kids are.
There was a lot of questions that needed to be answered, and
He said he had 71 questions. He got off 4.
Right. He got all 4 of the questions, and people waited and they wanted to see. And she, she wasn't able to express herself why she would be different than Biden.
But at the end of the day, do you think she hurt herself at all? I mean,
Not really.
For an independent voter, do you think that she hurt herself? I don't think so.
You know where she hurt herself more than anything else? The biggest problem that she caused herself is she should have just picked Josh Shapiro and not this guy Walz. This guy Walz is a clown show. He's a clown show that it's like he's a soundbite of just, it's funny just watching the way he waves, he claps. I mean, they tried to make him look like a guy's guy, can't load his shotgun. I mean, he's a joke. He's a joke. And then they had to double down on it to get the men, and now they're trying to get black men. It's like an insult to them.
But Brett Baer was prepared. He did answer that with what Waltz did in Minnesota. He did all the different things that she was arguing against. He asked her why she picked them. She didn't have a very good answer.
She wasn't able to. It's her foreign policy. You know where she's lucky?
How about if she answered, well, nobody's going to knock me off to bring him up like I did to Joe Biden. If she answered that.
Well, that one question that you have to say to yourself is that, people feel like she didn't deserve to get this thing. It was handed to her. She's making like Donald Trump in democracy. Democracy is not being told this is your only choice. You must vote for her or Donald Trump wins. And now, by the way, just like 4 years ago, if you want to see 4 years ago when Biden was running against Trump, in the last 3 weeks of that election cycle,
right, 2020.
2020. They basically said Donald Trump is demented. He is unhinged. He can't be trusted. Then 4 years before that, with Hillary Clinton, last 3 weeks, they said he's unhinged again. He's a crazy person. For Kamala Harris to be asking Donald Trump for his cholesterol count.
She has nothing else to talk about.
Oh, by the way, I'm
going to defend her.
No, they did, though, because Brett Baer asked her, when did you know that Joe Biden was...
I thought her answer was great.
He's not on the ballot?
Between the Situation Room and the White House, Joe is doing what he has to do every day. What else was she going to say? She has to defend the guy.
Right
what
now,
was she supposed to say about him?
You could say right now, is he capable right now of running the country?
From what I see once a week, yes.
Then don't worry about Donald Trump's cholesterol count.
She could say, yeah, he's capable of running the country. Look at me. I'm trying to run the country.
He ran the country.
Him half asleep is doing a better job than I'm going to do running the country.
Well, my answer would be, if he did such a great job, how come the Democratic Party didn't have anybody to vote for? Why is it that you were appointed and they are now forced into one person, you, if he did such a great job?
Look, he got his wife on the cover of Vogue magazine, right? He's done some big things in the last several months. He resigned his Democratic post. I mean...
Do you think he'll be in the courthouse when Hunter goes this next...
When is that hearing?
It's the next week or 10 days?
I mean, it's been awfully quiet.
It has been awful, isn't it?
But it really doesn't matter. What's the election, in 19 days?
20 days, but...
Okay, so 20 days. Let's say Hunter Biden walks into court and they say, all right, you're getting 9 years in jail. Okay, you need to report to prison January 1st. Well, what's the difference? He'll have a pardon by then.
I'm going to tell you where Kamala Harris is lucky. If the interview was tonight,
right,
they would have... Sinwar was killed by Israel. No thanks to Joe.
For our viewership here, why don't you tell the audience?
Well, Sinwar ran Hamas. He was now the next leader that hasn't been killed. He was
in charge of October 7th massacre.
He was in charge of October 7th massacre.
The brains behind it.
And the reason why there was no ceasefire is because he was the guy that stopped the ceasefire. Right. And Israel didn't want a ceasefire until they eliminated this guy. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said, do not go into Falafel or where, right. And that's where the hostages are. That's where he was. And again, Joe Biden tells you what not to do, just go the opposite. That's where everything was at. If they would have listened to Kamala Harris, he would still be alive today. The reason why he's dead is because they did not listen to Kamala Harris. And now Israel will continue on, and they're going to probably free the Gazans, who will end up having a better life. You might have peace right now, and they're going to attack Iran.
My prediction is it'll always be a shithole. It'll always be a mess, and nothing's ever going to end over there. It's always going to be the same.
Well,
I don't care who the hell's there.
Well, a lot
it's
of
like
people,
another plate comes to the top, another Horn and Horse plate comes to the top.
A lot of people that listen to us, they do not remember that Iran, it was the Shah. It was the Shah of Iran, and that's in 1979 when they overthrew the government and they took our hostages. And now you see the Ayatollahs. They don't remember Iran was like a thriving economy.
Right, a lot of Persian Jews.
But it was a thriving economy that you could go back to.
So is Great Neck, New York now.
That's true. That's true. But it could be a thriving economy again if you eliminate because they're all captive. They're trapped there, and I think Israel's going to free them.
Well, I think what Israel should do is Israel should should call up this guy Khomeini or whoever the hell runs Iran and just say, look, we know where all the bad guys are. We're eliminating them one at a time. You're next. You have an hour to get rid of, release these hostages. 1 hour and drop a missile on his front doorstep in 7 minutes so he knows you know where he lives. Don't kill him. Put the missile right in front of him. And say hostages come out in an hour. I think they'd come out.
Well, Israel actually has a new strategy up their sleeve. They know that Biden and Kamala Harris keep saying, Bibi, what's your game plan? What are you doing next? You could trust me. And Bibi's like, I really don't want to tell you because you have all these leaks. And they go, you can trust me. So what happened? Bibi said, President Biden said, I do not want you to attack the oil fields or their nuclear. And Bibi said, I promise I won't do that. And what happened? It was leaked immediately. So now Bibi knows I'm going to tell them what I'm not doing, so it's leaked. So I think they're going to attack the oil fields and the nuclear center because Bibi leaked that it's not happening. You got to use why is our country leaking? How does that even happen? How can
what happened to Donald Trump
all the time?
But
how doesn't Biden fire somebody? By the way, when the Supreme Court with the Roe versus Wade that was leaked, I mean, you got to be able to fire somebody.
I mean, he doesn't fire this guy Mayorkas. I mean, he gets away with murder, literally. I mean, this guy is unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, he hasn't gotten fired. Pete Buttigieg has never got fired.
Do you know?
I just can't believe. I understand, that everybody's entitled to maternity leave and all that stuff, but you're now a secretary. You have a cabinet post. How do you take maternity leave? It's only for 4 years.
If I wanted to write a really successful,
it's unbelievable.
If you worked in his administration, in his like West Wing, you know how you could really sell a lot of books? It would be Chapter 1. Who the cocaine belonged to that got into the White House. That would be Chapter 1. Chapter 2, who dropped the ball on the Secret Service and the assassination. 3, you could come up with.
How did you decide to pick Kamala Harris as vice president?
Right. How did Roe versus Wade get leaked in the? You could come up with all these different things.
Right.
How did we?
Where did you buy those moon shoes you're wearing every day now?
How did we know? How did you know to take advantage of Joe Manchin? How did you play him like a fiddle?
Is your wife really running things? Right?
Yeah. Hunter Biden, tell me.
He's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. So
anyway, Govy, let's get off of this because I can't wait for these 19 days to be done.
I'm
just so over
So I'm going to ask you one other thing in the news.
I'm so over the whole
The Menendez brothers. Do you know anything about that story?
Yeah.
Tell me.
They've been in jail 35 years, which is just hard to believe how fast our lives have gone.
Isn't it?
It was almost like we were watching that trial.
Right.
I mean, 35 years, 1991 or something.
So what do you think?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize he was bald. They were wearing toupees in the court. In the court. I guess I fall down on the side. It's a shame that the justice system didn't work well, where evidently the group, my daughter does documentaries for Universal, and she told me the group that took up their cause, they really do great investigations before they take up anybody's causes, and generally they get them out. So we'll see if they get them out, but it kind of sucks that these guys, I understand they shot their parents, but the fact of the matter is that there was severe abuse in the house, and it's kind of lousy that the Justice Department allowed evidence not to come in, or whoever that was.
It was the time. So here's what happened, I think.
Okay.
I think, just like anything else, like when people want to say they're against George Washington because he had slaves, that was the era. Ben Franklin had slaves. So during this time...
Good point.
Excellent point, during this time, it wasn't... Being abused by your parents didn't give you...
Yeah, they had the belt back in the day. It just kids got whipped with the belt.
Yeah, it just didn't. It was time subject. Today, if that would have come out, they would have been found innocent from day one. So what I think should happen is they could have a new trial. They could be found guilty, but it should be time served.
Yeah, 35 years is
done.
A lot. It's like a third-degree murder.
Right, like done. They should be out. They should be freed, and it should be sooner than later, and it should be time served. No one could argue with 30 years, 35 years in jail.
But, what's that like after 35 years in jail and you walk outside and the lights are bright and you open your eyes? I mean, how do you survive?
Well, he's used to walking by a building, next to it now with his hands on it.
I mean, how do you do that? I mean, it's got to be so crazy to be 35 years in jail.
Early bird dinners to them is like they're used to having dinner at 4:30 at night. Up at 6 having breakfast every day for 35 years.
And they're in penitentiaries. They're in bad places.
Yeah.
They're not like in prisons. They're in real bad places.
Right.
But anyway, Govy, this week was Elon Musk. I mean, this guy is incredible. Let's go over his stuff. He had a hell of a week. He had his rocket lands on chopsticks.
Mm-hmm.
He came out with the robo-taxi and the robo-bus.
Okay.
He had, his tunnel companies going well. Then he had Starlink fixing everybody in these hurricane-ravaged,
He bought a lot of Trump Social.
He bought a lot of Trump. So this guy is how does this guy, they have these CEOs that have trouble doing one job. This guy is doing all these jobs. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Think about that rocket thing that he did. It's just unreal that this guy can.
And he's coming out with new stuff. Isn't he coming out with a car now that will be like $30,000?
Yeah.
It'll drive itself.
Yeah, that's the RoboCab. And then he has Neuralink, that thing he's putting in people's brains.
But this cab that everybody thinks it won't, it comes really quickly. Like, you don't think it's going to be here. It's like when someone told you years ago, there's this thing called Uber, and you're going to get into a car that you don't know who the guy is. It's not going to be a yellow cab. Do you trust this thing? And you were like a little leery. Now, today, Uber is so accepted that I think 10 years, 15 years from now, you're just going to get into a driverless car. Like, it's normal.
And you know what's crazy? I mean, I was watching, the press release of this, and it was only a 2-seat car. I said, who the hell's going to take an Uber with a 2-seat car? 90% of Uber rides are only 2 people, 1 or 2 people.
Like a couple that they go out to dinner.
It's crazy. I thought Uber was for 6 people, 8 people.
You know who that's going to hurt, though, when they come out with this, Uber cab?
The Uber drivers.
I remember asking my mom, asking her, her friends, what do they look for in a guy? When my mom's when she was 80, she says, well, the number one quality is, can they drive? That was a big attribute. If they could drive and, do they like to go out to dinner, stuff like that, companionship. Could you imagine if you had the freedom, for seniors that you can get them off the road and they can have freedom to go anywhere they want.
It's funny when I go up to these country clubs for the big holiday buffets, and you're in the valet line and the guy in front of you gets out and take his walker out of the car. He can't walk, he can't see, he can't hear, but he can drive.
Right.
In the state of Florida.
Right. I know. Sometimes you should feel guilty where the guy can't walk and then you watch him drive off and you hear the horn honking of other cars because he's just a mess out there on the roadways.
And then when you're over 80, you must have a Cadillac or a Lexus. I think it's those are the 2 cars you drive, a Cadillac and a Lexus.
Right.
I mean, that's what you seem to be. But this Elon Musk is in a roll. He's going to be a trillionaire.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Now he's coming out with this utility company where he's going to reinvent all the utilities where it's going to be so much cheaper for you.
So what do you think of the idea if Trump has him in the cabinet that he's the price slasher, that he's the guy that comes in.
Well, when's he going to have time for it?
He could be great. Could you imagine him trying to find out all the fat that is in the government? Could you imagine him saying, "Wait a second, we spent $22 million on a bee test to see if what type of bees are located?" Like this guy is.
The guy is like, how could he possibly have time to do that though? I mean, he knocked away 80% of the employees of Twitter. Got rid of 80%. He's running Twitter X with only 20% of the original staff.
Right, and the unions are still backing Donald Trump because they who's been on strike now? Boeing. Boeing's been on strike for 2 months.
Yeah, a month and a half. It's crazy.
I mean, they're for Trump right now. The Teamsters are for Trump. I mean, what happened to Joe the union man?
Right. So now, Govy, I see your girl Taylor Swift is trying to buy a football team now. Did you see that?
No.
Oh yeah, she's jealous of Tom Brady because he just bought into the Raiders, the NFL team.
5% or 10%.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize he had that kind of money. How much is that? Like a couple $100 million?
Yeah, like maybe like $300 million. But what's really interesting is,
wow, where did he get all that money from? Like his TV contract deal?
Yeah, but there's an interesting thing there.
We're underpaid here, Govy.
Not only is he the only football player, he's one of the few professional football players that now are a part owner. You know, Michael Jordan was one. Except under the fine print of this deal, Richard Seymour, he played with Tom Brady for the New England Patriots for a lot of years, won a lot of Super Bowls, and he's now part of this owner group. Now, they gave him, like, I think, 0.0001%. But he, I think, brokered some of this deal together that he's considered an owner of this team. I think they gave him like a couple shares.
So when you're an owner of a football team and the team loses $100 million, do you have to pay that percentage that you have in at the end of the year?
I guess if they call it, but every other owner has to agree. It takes 3/4 of the owners have to approve every single person that gets a share. So the other owners had to approve of Tom Brady.
Well, I don't understand. He's calling balls and strikes on NFL football. So how is he an owner?
He has to give up. He's not allowed to talk about By the way,
how's he even do his job? I wouldn't want to have him as an announcer.
He can't.
He's out.
Right, because he can't give.
I'd fire him.
He can't say anything about the referees.
Right.
He can't go into the pregame locker rooms to find out what a game plan is. He can't say anything.
What good is he? He's not worth $35 million a year.
No, he isn't.
I mean, I think it's just a stupid move on his part.
Well, you think he should just take the $35 million and not need the ownership?
Well, I think in life you have to decide what what you are. You decided you want to be a podcast superstar, but I don't think he can serve two masters here. It's a conflict of interest, as they say in law.
All right. I think his long range is. I think he's thinking that he can get an ownership group together and buy out Davis and buy him out, and Tom Brady becomes the front person of the Las Vegas Raiders.
But it's like Michael Rubin, who has the Fanatics. He serves. He was serving two masters, and he had to give up one master. I mean, you just can't.
He gave up the Sixers, but because of Fanatics, where he needed for sports betting.
And that's what I think Tom Brady has to do. He has to give up.
Rubin, I think, made the right decision, not even close. Yeah. Brady might be making the wrong decision.
Yeah, it's like Pete Rose. I mean, he didn't bet on his own team. He should be in the Hall of Fame, right?
I mean, for Tom Brady to give up $35 million when he was only making, $8 million when he was playing, it's kind of crazy.
Right, but, he must have had some endorsements and other things.
Yeah, it's a lot of endorsements.
Yeah, he was making a lot of money. All right, Govy, what else
I want to talk to you about One Direction. 31 years old. Guy dies.
I heard he had some great drugs in that room, though.
It was
he
like
had a pharmacy, like a CVS.
His room, I'll tell you what his room looked like. It looked like Bourbon Street at 5:00 in the morning. Ever see what Bourbon Street looks like?
Yeah.
But that's what it trashed all over it. I mean, something made him jump
like
out.
the old days, those old rock and roll bands,
yeah, and he
destroy
jumped.
the rooms.
You think he could fly?
So you think he tried to kill himself, or he was just so high he thought he could fly?
I think he was so high. Do you remember being in science class when you were and they told you, they tried to scare you with what they hallucinated? Yeah. I think that's what took place.
What a crazy story.
Yeah.
It's like Kurt Cobain or whatever. I mean, all these guys, these rockers, kill themselves on this stuff.
And then you got these stories. Then you got the people at CNN that are reporting it. And then you look at the CNN guys like Jake Tapper. 2 weeks ago, he was on Top of the World thinking he just interviewed Donald Trump, and his boss has said to him, "No raise for you." Wolf Blitzer, no raise for you. And Mike Wallace, they said, "You're taking a pay cut."
Right. So let me ask you this question.
CNN's getting hit.
Do you think CNN, which we're going to assume is my camp, a liberal camp,
Okay.
Fox is in your camp, when they report, something like this where the guy kills himself, I mean, do you think they put a liberal slant on it? It's a real hard discussion to have, or they just report the news.
Are you trying to tell me they can blame Donald Trump for this?
I think they can.
I mean, can they blame Donald Trump for this?
The guy was depressed
I mean,
about the election.
it took place in Argentina. The guy's not even from this country. Could it be Trump's fault?
No, but do you think they can report it, or it's just politics that they go left or they go right? Or is it every story they put out there, for a bus driver, a union worker?
They find that politics is involved in every story. No matter what, every story they can relate it to politics. If the guy went crazy because he was in his house and it was, it was 100 degrees and he didn't have air conditioning.
It's Donald Trump's fault.
It was because everybody else used too much power and he didn't share. There's always something.
No, we have to circle back because after the election, Donald Trump's going to get his sentence. Is he going to serve jail? I mean, they're
going to throw everything. He's winning. He's going to win all these different things. I'll tell you what's kind of crazy.
Is this judge going to lock him up though? I mean, it's not going to get thrown out. He's going to get locked up.
No, he's out. This is everybody. He's going. By the way, all these verdicts against him that he owes $400 million.
Yeah,
they're all going to be thrown out. And that E. Carroll person. She's not getting a dime, not getting anything either. I
was hoping to get her number.
But I'm going to tell you something crazy. They showed you today that voting is now taking place, early voting in North Carolina. And they showed you that in the Asheville area, they have 14 polling places. They used to have 18. It's down to 14. Could you imagine that you wake up, it's 28 degrees outside, it's freezing, you don't have heat, and you're going to wait in line to vote?
They say they're so dedicated, it's unbelievable.
They're waiting in line. They have nothing. They're waiting in line to vote.
I have a better question. When they say there's still 200,000 customers that have outages that don't have power, was that because they don't have a house anymore? I mean, How do they count that when their houses are wiped out and they have no electric in their house? Is that one of the 200,000 or is that existing customers?
Do you know what's crazy? Because everything got wiped out, if I was FEMA, me.
Right.
And if I was Biden and Harris right now, especially with this big thing coming up, if I was Harris, I would have said, those FEMA trailers that we use for Katrina and we use for a lot of the illegal immigrants that are here, I need 3,000 trailers. And I would send them right up to Asheville, North Carolina. And I would say, look, this is temporary, but I need you to have heat. I need you to have electricity. You're going to live in a trailer until we could sort all this out because we got to maybe rebuild. Some can't be rebuilt.
You're a problem solver, Govy.
We have trailers.
Yeah.
Why aren't we sending 2,000 trailers for North Carolina?
Because I don't know if any of our listeners are government employees. They're just not that bright.
And by the way, they could take a breath. They could think about it.
You're a common sense guy. It makes a lot of sense. They're not that bright.
Let them stay there. It could take 2-3 years. At least you got a roof, a TV, air.
I have a friend. Actually, you know him. I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah.
But he's sending portable. He's in the portable toilet business.
Okay.
He's sending now. We rent portable toilets for $89 a month.
Right.
And that includes the service. He's sending them to these hurricane ravaged places for $600 a month. The government's paying them for these portable toilets that we rent for $89 a month. By the way, you can go on the internet and see how much, you have a construction site,
right.
You're building a house, you can see how much the price is. Why would the government pay $600 a month to anybody for a portable toilet? Because he's got to schlep it from here to North Carolina? I'll schlep it there for $600
It is. It's kind of crazy. That's where Elon Musk would say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's out of control. It's like this Boeing.
For parts, when they pay for a crazy part.
Right, or where they have to send Elon Musk to go rescue their astronauts. That's still going on. You don't hear about that anymore either, do you?
No, you don't.
All these stories. Well, anyway, Govy, we're coming to the end. You have your NFL picks.
I got my pick.
Let's talk about last week. You did 6-1 or something?
Yeah, but first I got to just say one thing. Aaron Rodgers, New York Jets.
41-year-old quarterback.
If this isn't to show you why the Jets stink as a franchise, they put all their chips in this guy. They make a trade with the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay sitting there saying, we have a backup that we have to use. Their backup, by the way, they paid $240 million, so he's great for the Green Bay Packers. They were glad to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Not only did they get rid of him, they got first-round draft picks. The guy's old. He's an old guy who's bitter or whatever. He's a weird person with everything that's going on.
Why does he even want it?
He's just weird.
You're 41.
He thinks he could take he doesn't even take the medicines. He does everything. He's just weird. But I'll tell you something. So then last night, I'll show you one thing that's nice. The Dodgers were playing the New York Mets, and the Japanese player Ohani was at the plate.
Well, oh right,
He was at the plate,
Yeah.
and this is what's great.
he's the greatest baseball player in today's existence.
He
folks.
fouls one ball off, and it hits his foot. Like it hits the ground first, and then it hits his foot. So he's hopping up and down for a little bit. But the umpire and the catcher, they're looking at him like they don't know if it hit him, didn't hit him. No big deal. The next pitch, the ball bounces off his bat and hits him right in the balls.
Wow.
And all of a sudden they see him, and it's like the catcher is from South America, the umpire is American, the pitcher is from a different country, and it's a universal language. They saw what took place, and they gave him a timeout. Like, they didn't have to communicate because you had a Japanese player, you had 3 people that were involved in the play. No one could speak the language, but they saw what took place, and they were able to communicate to say, let's give this guy 2 minutes to regroup because they knew what it was. Pretty interesting. But anyway, here's my picks.
Last week is 6-1.
College. Well, college I went 1-3. Pros I went 4-0.
4-0.
4-0.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So here are my college picks this week. Last week was a big favorite week. This week I'm going with some underdogs here.
All right, so do it fast so he can make a reel.
All right, here it is, pretty fast. It's going to be Boston College plus 7.5 over Virginia Tech. Nebraska plus 6.5 over Indiana. Rutgers minus 4.5 over UCLA. Tulsa plus 3 over Temple. Have to always bet against Temple. Illinois plus 3.5 over Michigan. Alabama minus 3 over Tennessee. Navy minus 17 over Charlotte. And Kentucky minus 1.5 over Florida. They are my college picks.
No U of M?
No U of M on this one because I think they might be overrated, University of Miami.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, they could
stop
be.
it.
So
They're
now
a great
comes
team.
my pro picks.
Good.
The New Orleans Saints plus 2.5 over Denver. The Bengals minus 5.5 over the Browns. Detroit plus 1.5 over the Vikings. The Eagles minus 3 over the New York Giants because Barkley's going to run crazy. And the Washington Redskins minus 8 over Carolina.
Wow, interesting game.
I like the pros. The pros are going to be a good week for me.
That's an interesting game. Govy, well, this is going to be a great week. What are we in week 7?
Week 7.
Yeah, the season's going so fast. What's Jerry Jones and the Cowboys going to do? I mean, the guy's a pain.
The guy.
I mean, that game he got smoked so bad.
The guy's 82 years old. He still plays with this team like they're worth like nothing. It's like he has to hire a general manager. Then you got the Philadelphia Eagle head coach. He decides he's going to pick a fight with the fans, the home fans. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie has this guy on a short leash to Sirianni. Sirianni has to go. He's an embarrassment.
But he won't get fired.
Bill Belichick is waiting.
No, Jeff Lurie will never pay Bill.
I'll tell you what.
He'll never pay him.
Yes, he will. Bill Belichick will be the next coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Howie Roseman's got to get fired or
No, he
quit.
won't. Bill Belichick is...
It's not working there with Howie Roseman.
Bill Belichick doesn't need to work as hard as he had. He has a 30-year-old girlfriend that he's about to marry.
Oh,
do you know that?
So funny. Yeah, he's going to marry her?
Yeah.
Wow, I hope he has a strong
30.
prenup.
He's 70-some years
Bill,
old.
let me give you some advice. A prenup doesn't count future kid child support. So, talk to your lawyer about that one before you get her pregnant, if you can.
Right.
All right, Govy. What a great show. Well, the election will be next week, only a week away, or a week and a half.
2 weeks away,
2 weeks away, so we're closing in on it. We're going to have a 10,000 bet on who we think's going to win. Harris.
No way.
You think Trump's going to win?
It's going to be the biggest blowout since Nixon beat McGovern.
But we have it rigged for 5 points. Trump's got to win by an extra 5 because we have it rigged for 5 points.
You know who they're
going to be crooked by 5 points.
Do you know who they're going to blame when Harris loses?
Who?
Trump. They're going to blame Trump. And Trump's going to say, okay, I'll take the blame on this one.
All right, folks. Have a great week.
See ya.